Good Neighbor events.
Sometimes, strange things can happen.
Coast to coast, all night, every night.
There's really no reason to be afraid.
On WGNS, AM, FM, online. Merry Christmas from all of us at News Radio WGNS. Rutherford Issues with Brian Barrett on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and streaming at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back to Rutherford Issues, and we are powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Their Drive EV program has resources for members who would like to learn more about all aspects of EVs. MTE is developing programs and educational resources to answer member questions. Find out more at driveev.com. And don't forget, if you'd like to round up Sharing Change, they've donated more than $11 million to local nonprofits assisting worthy causes here in our community. Speaking of worthy causes here in our community, John Mitchell is here, the Executive Director of the Heart of Tennessee American Red Cross. And John, Merry Christmas. How are you?
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Brian. Glad to be here. Good to see you this morning.
Absolutely. This is always a busy time of the year. I'm sure it's kind of the rush toward getting to the holiday, right?
Yeah. We actually just had our holiday party, just stopping long enough to thank our volunteers and, just get together. We had a really great event. We had about 50 people attend our holiday party. Special shout out to the Smoke Box Unlimited next door. They smoked a couple turkeys for us, and had several organizations around town donate some gift certificates so we could, do door prizes and thank our volunteers for their selfless work throughout the year.
Awesome. Did you have it there at the headquarters? Or?
We did. We had it on the second floor in what we call the St. Thomas room, which is used a lot for the training of CPR and what have you, and board meetings. But we feel like we may have outgrown it because I had a few people call me afterwards, say, sorry, I couldn't make it. And in my mind, I thought, well, I don't know where we would have put you. So next year we may have to go off site just to celebrate. And as always, thank our volunteers for the many things they do.
Well, that's awesome that you've got enough volunteers to overfill a room, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And we can always use more. The Red Cross is doing a lot of work in a lot of different areas, and so we've got a spot for anybody. I kind of brag about the fact that I'm a hardcore recruiter. I just recruited my mother. She's going to help me sign some thank you notes and do some work in the office. So we could find she's not going to respond to a DAC call at 2:00 at night. But she can help us out in thanking the donors and the volunteers in a special way.
Well, I've seen you in action with more than one local agency, and you are a gentle arm twister. Well,
yeah, I like the word. Yeah, gentle. Yeah, you've got to challenge people sometimes, and you don't want to challenge them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you do want to challenge them, to take on something they probably want to do anyway. They may not just have the knowledge base or the encouragement or whatever, and it's very fulfilling. I can remember I learned this a long time ago when I worked for the Boy Scouts. I thought I was doing this mainly for the boys and giving them opportunities in the program. Then I heard one of the volunteers speak one day at one of our appreciation events, and she talked about how much it meant to her. She said they moved from out of town, went to McMinnville, and every day she would take her kids to school, change into her house, her bunny slippers, if you will, and then go and get the kids. And then once she got in the scouting program, it just changed her life. It gave her another, really valuable purpose to be driving a program. So volunteerism is a very special thing, and some people do have to learn not to say yes all the time. They need to kind of learn how to say, well, this is a good mixture of volunteerism. But I always challenge people to get out there and find the agency, whether it's the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, United Way, Habitat for Humanity. It's very fulfilling work.
Yeah, most certainly. And, I just think about that person who you said that you can tell that they want to volunteer, and you probably know enough about them to know where they would be very valuable. But I think people sometimes are just nervous about stepping out, nervous about maybe doing a good job, maybe whether they're worthy to do that job. All kinds of things go through their mind, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, something I've learned over the years is, whatever agency you work with, they'll always give you some tips, and they'll say, what are the characteristics of a volunteer for this position? And someone automatically says, well, let's go get an accountant to do this because of finances. Well, most of the time that works, but sometimes they want to break from what they're doing already.
Sure.
And so they want to do something a little different. But as far as organization goes, there's a lot of people that don't hold that title, but their skill set is there. So it's not that you need to have it on a resume. If you're very organized, we'll find a spot for you, that's for sure, because organization is a big role of kind of learning how to go through some of the training classes and being prepared if you do go out on a disaster action call and you have the means to know how to help a family that night by giving them $500 in a card that they can go take their next step with.
Sometimes that accountant wants to be one that is on call for hurricane disaster relief assistance, things like that. They just want to be able to do something totally different than being stuck in the office crunching numbers.
Yeah,
never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of expand your base and think, well, what drives me, or what have I been interested in learning more about? And that could be your path in volunteering, and we definitely could use you at the Red Cross.
John Mitchell is here with us today. He is the executive director of the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross. And John, one thing that I always hear about during this time of the year, and I know people get really busy, they're going to grandma's house and to auntie's house and, here and there, and just the hustle and bustle of the holiday season. And we've heard that term used, and it's true. But this is also the time of the year when blood donations are down, and they've been down. And so when you add that on top of it, you can get critically low, and I'm sure that we're in that kind of situation here.
Yeah, we are, and we're always trying to promote the opportunities in the community. The days have changed at our fixed site there at 501 Memorial Boulevard. They're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but open throughout the weekend and the other 5 days.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah, and that's not the only place you can donate. Gene Baker is the blood donation representative that works with churches, schools, businesses, and he's constantly giving more opportunities at different places. So he let me know that his next upcoming blood drive is at Embassy Suites, Friday, December the 22nd from 10 to 2. And all donors get a long sleeve Red Cross shirt. So I think they just went through some elf socks, and now you can get your long sleeve shirt. And between those two, you might be able to stay warm during this holiday season.
So at the fixed site, those weekend dates, when you mentioned that just immediately made me think of the possibility of having more donors being able to come in on the weekend if they're not at work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the intent, and the good thing about the fixed site is it gives us more flexibility. I'm not an expert in the blood donation arena, but I do know that is the place where you can give platelets. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that at the off-sites. So it's easy to work with. What I would encourage everybody to do is download the Red Cross blood donation app. And once you get that and you get in the system, that'll remind you of the next time you can donate. And you can do all your scheduling on the Red Cross blood donation app.
Yeah, I know my daughter was very eager to give at MTSU during the fall semester, during the MTSU WKU blood donation time.
100 Miles of Hope.
Yes.
They changed it. It was 100 Miles of hate, and they thought, well, that just doesn't sound, maybe it doesn't have the right optics. So 100 miles of hope between WKU and MTSU, and WKU sneaked out a victory on blood donations this year.
And in the
MTSU.
football game again.
And the football game again, unfortunately, yes. It's usually, we got the blood donation collection victory, and WKU takes a football game. This year they took both.
Well, next year we're going to get both.
Yeah,
Here
yeah,
at
we will.
MTSU.
We
so
will.
I've got my Blue Raider sweatshirt on here today too,
Yeah.
just to go with that. So, but you know, I think getting young people, I think that's great. You know, and if we can get young people, I don't want to say hooked on giving blood, but you know what I mean. You know, kind of get that habit of you know, being a blood donor. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, if I look back, I remember the first time I was approached about giving blood was when I was in college a few years ago, back in the 80s. And I remember at the time, I wanted to get that shirt that you could get with it.
Yeah.
And maybe that oatmeal cream pie, you know, afterwards, you know, maybe
It's
that's
always about the shirt, isn't it?
It is about the shirt. So whether it's shirts or socks, and but to this day, that still is a motivating factor for people. So not only you getting the shirt or the socks or whatever the giveaway is at the time, you're saving a life. And on that blood donation app, it's my understanding that you'll get information about where your blood has actually moved to and who it's helped.
Oh, great.
Which is pretty cool.
Well, hopefully if you can spend some time, maybe you've got a couple of weeks off during the holiday season, it'd be a great opportunity for maybe you to do something with the family and give blood and show your children, you know, what it means to give the gift of life and use that as a teaching opportunity. So download that Red Cross blood donation app, and Red Cross has a great website as well where you can track and find the closest blood donation time and giving location for you. Before our time gets away, John, and again, John Mitchell with the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross, Heroes Lunch is coming up. And yes, if you have been with the American Red Cross and you heard me say Heroes Lunch, you're probably saying, Brian, it's not a lunch. It's always been a breakfast. Well, this year it's a lunch, John, right?
It is a lunch, and that'll be March the 5th. It'll still be at MTSU. We strategically do that when spring break happens so people can park. So if you ever worry about coming to MTSU and parking, that's a good enough reason in itself just to be able to come and park and walk across the street to the student union. But we'll start at 11:30, and the program will run for approximately an hour and a half. We probably, you know, may get done a little earlier, but this year we'll be going through a highlight of all of our responses in the community. And talking about our programs, our volunteers, we'll be honoring one of our volunteers, Mary Nichols. She's a former MTSU professor that served in Reedyville, but also deploys to Hawaii and California and a lot of different places. But she's a go-to person. But our honoree this year is former Mayor Ernest Burgess. So we will be putting together some videos, and he'll attend the event. But we just want to honor, you know, Mayor Burgess provided some very calm and very just great leadership here in our community, and he's a hero in our eyes. So we want to honor him and a lot of the people that he worked with over the years in his service.
Well, when you talk about the year and kind of recapping the year that we had, I guess in terms of disaster response, the one really big event that pops out is the Reedyville tornado back on, April 27th, I think.
Yeah, and I actually just talked to two of the clients within the last 2 days. They're graciously going to share their testimony, and we'll capture that on film. They're building back there. I do need to drive out there and see for myself, but one of the ladies, she basically had her home demolished right there with her standing there. As we were told, she went to go out the doorway, and she looked out the doorway, but there was no home. And then her son was standing in rubble, and by the grace of God, nobody was, you know, was hurt very seriously. But she's back in her home, as of the last week. And so we want to capture some of the friends we got to meet and got to serve, and we'll be sharing those stories March the 5th at the Heroes. I almost said breakfast, Brian.
Yeah.
At the Heroes Luncheon.
Is that a ticketed event? How do people go to that?
The simple thing is anybody can attend. All right, there is a ticket availability that you can go online, but we do have some sponsors, and we're having some great success in sponsorships. But we actually don't have anybody at our $20,000 title sponsor. We have several at our presenting sponsor at $10,000, Ascend, and the Blue Goose Insurance Industry Group. The life-saving sponsor, we've already got 3 or 4. So with all those sponsors, they get seats for the event, and sometimes they don't fill their seats. So if you want to come to the event, you can just email me, john.mitchell2@redcross.org. You can buy a ticket, or I can help get you sitting with one of our sponsor tables that may have an empty seat.
All right, that's the Red Cross Heroes Lunch, March 5th, and we'll be telling you more about it in the coming weeks and months. John, I appreciate you coming by. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to Murfreesboro, and thank you for having us.
That's John Mitchell joining us today. And a reminder, if you missed part of the program, check the podcast at WGNSradio.com, or you can check the video online on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
This is Lenny Farmer with Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home. Did you know that you can plan your funeral in advance without actually paying for your funeral in advance? In other words, if it's not a convenient time to pay for your funeral,